Back. It's time for Press Review, where we take a look and analyze what's being covered on our dailies. And there's a lot today, from the political arena all the way to some sad news from Baringo, whereby a few people have died due to malaria, which is actually quite unfortunate. And joining me for that discussion is Ambrose Wedder, a lawyer and friend to the show. Welcome. Now, let's start off with that sad news from Baringo County that's making headlines on The Nation. The top page, you're being told agony as malaria kills 7 in Baringo. Shame of Tiati ailing health system as residents die of a disease that is both curable and preventable.
Thank you so much. I think it is, you can see, I have said and I keep on saying that when you get your priorities wrong, then people die.
Yes.
Then you lose. When everybody gets their priority wrong, if you look at the headline, the president is concerned about reforms to the constitution.
Yes.
It's like our problem, our basis for election was that there was a problem with the constitution. We want a new constitution. So it does not matter whether people are dying because there's no drugs. And malaria is very basic. You go and get a medicine called Coartem or which one, and then you're done.
Yes.
Now, but if it is not there, if it has not been delivered, if nobody seems to care, people care about re-election, people care about the constitutional reform, people care about things which are secondary.
Absolutely.
Yet the Kenyan nation, the Kenyan people talk about very basic, ordinary things. Unga, malaria medicine. Some of these things, in some places, some of these leaders would have resigned. The governor would have resigned.
Yeah.
And medical officers, the president would have come in. But I think we need prayers as a country.
Yeah.
We need, I think God needs to come quickly so that he can.
Yeah, and when you look at the page 22 of the county section of The Nation, what is pictured there is quite unfortunate, because it's the chief, Haron Lotin, covering up the body of a dead 10-year-old with a lasso, just painting you a picture of how devastating it is. And seated right next to him is perhaps a relative or an old woman who looks like she could use a good meal or some sort of help also, because she doesn't look like she's well, basically.
I'm telling you, I've seen, I think we have shared a forum either here or in a local media house with the MP for TIT.
Yeah.
Talking very, but you see, these are basic things, the governors or whatever. And I'm sorry to say, even the senator of covering the area, they would have easily, they should not see this.
Yes.
It's really, really, really sad. But I think above all, we are the president's people.
Yes.
You understand, Mr. President and the Deputy President, before you spend resources in Tanga or Kieleweke, please ensure that some medicine is in this place, there's some food, because this is basic hunger.
Yes.
Hunger and then disease.
Yes.
And in 1963, I was told, before I was born, that the major goal of the independent Kenya was to fight illiteracy, hunger, and eliminate poverty.
Yeah.
And now, 50-something years down the road, we are still dying of basic malaria.
Now it seems that we have deviated from that, and also the story further tells us of the irony of having clinics with no medics in them. So it really does not help.
They are not. Let me tell you, they are not clinics. Say the irony of having buildings. You know, this building, you can write it here and say hospital. It doesn't make it an hospital. Now that's what they have there.
Yes.
Buildings or structures which have been put for political reasons.
Yeah.
To Meleta, to Metenga, we have done this clinic. So you read clinic, but inside there's no personnel and there's no medicine. A clinic is where there is personnel, qualified,
it could
and
be
there's
under
medicine.
A tree, actually.
Yes, even under a tree.
Yeah.
We used to have, when I was mobile clinics, it would be under a tree, but they would come and deal. So these buildings that enable them to siphon out funds, then they run clinic, hospital. I think one day they'll meet God and they have questions to answer.
Yes, because the electorate basically is suffering for said actions. Now, when we look at another story, still on health, on page 7, it paints a similar picture, how delays are killing breast cancer patients. And we're being told right here that breast cancer patients have to wait almost a year before beginning treatment, and this is an inquiry has revealed, and this is after you're diagnosed, and you know with the nature of cancer how it progresses. This is on page 7 of the Standard. It's just painting a quite grim picture from deaths due to malaria in this era. Now we're being told that it takes quite a bit of time before you can actually access treatment for a disease that could progress quite rapidly for those who are affected by it. What do you feel about this?
I think it is, remember, one of the 4 agenda items, one of the main 4 agenda that President Uhuru campaigned over to go back and to be re-elected, one of them was affordable healthcare.
Healthcare, yes. True.
For sufficient supply of nutritious food. But we have now reeled off to constitutional reform and handshakes and building bridges and building roads. But by the time they are through with this, we are all dead.
Yes.
And it is sad when you die of diseases which can be controlled, which can be treated.
Yes.
Something like cancer. Must it kill all the leaders for them to realize that the smaller people are dying? I think it is, we should just chop off a bit of money from the corruption industry, and then we can invest in this so that people don't suffer this much.
Absolutely. And
but then people also should learn to go for screening. You know, we live in a culture where we don't maintain things. We repair them, including our bodies. You only go when you are unwell. You don't go for checkup. When you go for checkup, people think you are behaving rich and you are behaving like you have excess.
Rich people problems going for treatment.
Yes.
And also there's the fear of unknown, thinking that you might discover something that
which you didn't want to know. You are better off not knowing.
But then that defeats the point, actually. But of course, that's a way of thinking that we need to get over. But clearly, the health sector has a long way to go in terms of taking care of the people, in terms, be it health issues related to cancer or even malaria. As the headlines are reflecting, it's nothing. There's nothing to celebrate in that front. Now let's move back to the politics that you've been referring to. Now the top story on the Standard: DCI to question 2 ministers in Itare Dam probe. Now this has to do with graft, but then at the top right there, Raila takes a swipe at Ruto allies on referendum talk. That's the top story on the Standard. And ODM leader warns deputy president and his cronies they risk being swept by political storm if they oppose law reforms. That has to do with the BBI initiative. Then on the Daily Nation, Uhuru backs reform as Raila warns foes. Your take, Mr. Weda?
Yeah, I don't know why I really support the handshake, but I don't know why Honorable Raila must always have perceived enemies. Either there's handshake, and this time either you fight Uhuru, and if you're not fighting Uhuru, you fight Ruto.
Combative
and
approach.
Then there are tsunamis coming, and people are going to Canaan, and all these things. I think as a statesman, there comes a time when you say, look, we would like to look at our constitution, and the areas that we think we need to have a relook at.
Yes.
It can't come as a tsunami. We are here waiting for him. That tsunami of him, if we are talking about constitutional review and people are dying of basic things like malaria, we will tell them, no, because this country belongs to us, belongs to our children, great-grandchildren. They have had their chance, and their chance has always been tsunamis and handshakes and violence. So I think, and I still repeat, even the president is getting it wrong. Our immediate problem is not constitutional review. Our immediate problem is affordable health care, good food. Today, 2 kilos of maize is 120 shillings. Many Kenyans can afford. This is a priority. I keep on repeating, Mr. President, focus more on this. These are the tsunamis. Now we will sweep who? We will sweep Ruto. We will sweep who? Those days are gone.
Absolutely.
We now want to progress on the basis of actual economic advancement. We have had these stories, these dances, this chalala, these TB. And the result is people are dying of malaria. Malaria. You know, it is very sad. And it's all politics. It's all getting the priorities wrong. Even if there is a constitutional need for constitution, you bring in everybody.
Yes.
You bring in, if the deputy president seems to be reading from a different script, you explain to him, you show him, my brother, here, there is this problem we need to fix like this. There's this problem. You don't bring it as a political tool, which will be sweeping other people. He may be swept. Because it's not only, I personally have still not seen the need to amend the constitution.
The constitution.
Not because it does not have issues, but because it is not a priority as we talk today. People do not have jobs, people are going hungry, and then you are talking about gobbling down millions of shillings, billions in a referendum. What do they want us to die first before they can be happy?
We could use a tsunami of medication, a
tsunami
of...
yes, medication, tsunami of unga, so that people can eat ugali 10 times in a day. This is what we are talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is
and
need.
And TB, more even food, good food.
That would be an easy way to target the strings of the possible voters who they want, because these are things that are immediate to them, things that they need, things that they can actually see. Because like the woman I was talking about, pictured in this nation, if she could see medicine, if she could see a hospital in her locality, if she could see food right before her, she perhaps remember the leader that she made this possible.
That lady doesn't even know a constitution. She doesn't
know.
Yes. You tell him, do you want constitution or you just want a packet of ugali or medicine? You tell constitution, what does it even mean? Explain it. And you know there's no constitution in the Lu language or the Kikuyu language. Did you know or Kalenjin?
No, there
These
isn't.
are things that we impose, and then it enables us to forget the very key fundamental things.
Yes, absolutely. Which is quite unfortunate, but that's the Kenya we're living in today, as is being reflected on our papers today. Now let's take a look at another issue. Hunt for the next Kibra MP starts. ODM leader Raila Odinga, still on him, and his daughter are being pictured on the Daily Nation's top page. And of course, after meeting politicians seeking party tickets for the Kibra constituency by-election, Miss Odinga, as it was expected, is not in the race.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate we lost Ken. Ken was one of the most brilliant human beings I've met, very articulate and very reserved, very of higher caliber.
Yes.
It appears good people go early, but the ruffians stay on and on and on.
Right.
I don't know what lesson God wants to teach us, but I think for Rosemary Odinga, she's a brilliant young lady.
She is.
She in her own right, she is good. And I think this time around is tactical. So that it doesn't look like the family is celebrating all these things. But this walk around is to enable her to familiarize herself, so that in the next 2 years, when 2022 comes,
she can ease her way
she'll
in.
just run in. So whoever goes in today, either you need to go and work so hard. The last time, it was only by grace of God and blessings of God that Ken Okoth was able to get back the ticket. But whoever gets it this time, let her pray very hard that Rosemary either is appointed to the cabinet or made somebody big outside the country. But I think the father would like to ensure that she also enters politics. But in her own right, she has potential.
Yes, she does. And speaking of brilliant human beings, she is one of them. In terms of her accomplishments and what have you. Then the TSC is making headlines as well. This is on page 6 of the Nation. We're being told TSC set to recruit 1,000 principals. This is after they actually released news that there's going to be hiring of 6,000 head teachers and their deputies. That's the total number of all that is expected. And of course, there was a number that was released of the teachers that are going to be hired. But on the flip side, Sosion is to know his fate on Thursday. Remember, his name was struck off the teachers list. Now, this politics, there's never a dull day, even when it comes to teachers' politics. What do you feel about that?
I think the blunder that Sosion made was to accept a nomination as an ODM MP. That was a blunder. I wonder the greed that was in this great man.
Yeah.
He has as a Secretary General, that's a big job, big salary, big funds. I really don't know why he chose to be partisan. There are teachers who are NASA, there are teachers who are Jubilee, there are teachers who are... So by doing that, his enemies on the other side, I think now are looking through with a monocle how to get him out.
Yes.
And one of it is get him out as a teacher, and you see, by becoming an MP, this things come into play.
Yeah.
So
there's a requirement for neutrality.
Yes, neutrality. As a trade unionist, you serve all of them. So he went in and then he lost at various intervals in court. So he has several issues which he needs to look at. But he can retain his base if the neck says we retain him. Otherwise, I think the blunder was his. And it is based on greed, or he was misled by the ODM leader, Honorable Raila Odinga, at that time.
But at this rate, is there any hope? Because he's already been removed as a teacher. His name
There
is
are miracles. I believe in miracles. I believe.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. But then it would be keen to see, I'd be keen to see how that story develops in particular, because he's one of the most vocal unionists.
Actually, yeah, from the later day, Adongo, my namesake, Ambrose, I think Sosion has done a wonderful job as a teacher's representative. At Sosion and Atwoli will come out as very great trade unionists in this country for their members. We may disagree with them on other limbs, but as trade unionists, they have done perfectly well. It's only that now he associated with the wrong people. Now they misled him. He entered into a game which he ought not to have entered into, and it has now led into various problems that he needed not have gotten into.
Absolutely. And I noticed the same story on malaria is also on the Standard. If you have either paper, then you can get to read more about it. And laboratory tests done in government laboratories have confirmed that there is an outbreak of malaria.
Let me just add. I see in my village, Kombewa, where testing malaria now is done in people's houses. There's some kit which you just use and you do it yourself. It has been simplified like that. Then there's an American research station right in my village. The medicines and whatever are there. Can't these leaders even go shopping there and bring these things?
It seems very simplistic, but clearly the leadership in this area is not on their best when it comes to this particular issue, because also pictured there is a woman looking quite destitute, sleeping on the ground there in the dirt, just at pains, I guess, of the disease, as has been reported. Up to 100 cases, mostly expectant women who are in danger. Quite sad right there. And still on health matters, on this Nation, we have on page 10 a picture that is quite disturbing. Garbage at the Gogan section of the Nairobi River. This has been a river that has made headlines for a long time because of how poor the sanitation is, and this is obviously a health risk. And World Bank has told us that the lack of clean water limits the country's economic growth.
Yeah, I think this is not something of World Bank.
We don't need the World Bank to tell us.
This is basic cleanliness.
Yes.
The late Michuku was here and he cleaned it.
Yes.
These are just garbage we throw. You know, you see sometimes you drive along the road, you see people throwing things and so on. It is basic cleanliness.
Yes.
I'm telling you, if you look at some countries like America, they are struggling about sending a spaceship to, I don't know, Pluto. As we are worrying, we are struggling with just garbage on Nairobi River. I'm telling you, I don't know, God, where did we get it wrong? So, during Michuki's time, this thing was clean.
Yes.
But these other environment ministers, I think they're just yapping around. So this has nothing to do with the World Bank. This has everything to do with us.
Yes, absolutely.
Clean environment and then enforcement of regulations. If we have governors around here, all they know is to wear rings and do drama. But they don't know how to collect these things.
Well, they've successfully made us discard the paper bags. What would be so difficult about just cleaning this particular river? It seems like maybe it's a question of focus from the leadership.
Yes. And you see, this is now you don't talk about this and remove it from the cancers we're talking about. Cancers of the lungs, cancer of the blood, all this is because these are toxic fumes that we generate and then we inhale. Added to the poisons that we add to our food, formalin and all these things. We are killing ourselves slowly and nicely. Then we complain when we are dead.
And of course that is something that needs to be taken a look at. It's on page 10 of the Daily Nation. Improve the water quality. The report recommends a raft of measures countries can take to improve water quality, including environmental policies and standards. But as Weda has said, we don't need the World Bank to tell us that the Nairobi River needs some attention.
If you go near Globe Cinema, during Michuki's time, they even planted trees. It looks very beautiful. Then when he died with it.
With the clean river that he had gifted us, so to speak. But now let's move on to other issues. On page, this is page 5 of the Standard.
Yes.
Kotu tussles with state over cement firms' land. You were praising Kotu for being, or rather the Secretary General for being quite outspoken in his capacity as a representative for labor workers. And here is another story that just points to some of those efforts that he has and the organization has been making.
Yes, I think. Remember why I say that Atuli has done well. There has been a raft of legislative improvements in this country that support the worker.
Yes.
So much so that now you have seen, even if you are cabinet secretary and you are sacked wantonly, you can go to court and get a court order stopping the appointing authority from removing you and so on. We have gone that far.
Yes.
From a point of view many years that if you are sacked for whatever reason, the question was whether was it somebody dismissal or normal termination. Either way, it was either 3 months' salary or 1 month's salary or zero. Now it is not a walk in the park. So that's why I'm saying that he's done a good job. He has done a wonderful job, if you ask me, although he's now stayed for too long. Too long. Good job, yes, but
it's quite it's quite obvious that the time is also it's been a bit it's been a while. I don't really like the right
the
words.
children who are born when Honorable Sir Atuli was Secretary General,
Still,
they are retiring from civil service as the representative.
yeah, but he's
done
showing,
a good job.
yeah, he's showing no signs of letting up or leaving that.
He's strong guy,
yeah,
and
still vocal.
Still vocal and being taken very well good care of at home.
Yeah.
But I think you should consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's another story on page 6 of the Standard. We still have to talk about graft. Two CSs face probe over the stalled 2 billion shillings Itare Dam. It seems like graft is something that we have to keep talking about because it's always making headlines. There are people always being implicated as to misusing funds, and pictured right there is a half, not even half, maybe that's the foundation of the construction of that dam, and some of the machinery that has been just left there laying fallow because no work is ongoing. So this is going to land a few into hot waters as the DPP and DCI go to Dubai to gather evidence and what have you.
Yes, my teacher, Dr. Jaramba, always says there's a corruption sector, the corruption industry, and it gobbles up a third of all our resources. I think that what we call the fight,
the war,
or the graft war,
yes,
in earnest, it looks good because people are being held in court. But when you look at it, when you are talking about CSs and so on, you hardly hear any CS sacked.
No,
even when they're charged, some people are still acting. It's a game. It involves everybody, and people have documents in their closets which they use to threaten others. They say, if you do this, I do this. We just hope that the war will enable a reduction so that we move from 30% of the GDP, let's say, to 15%.
A compromise, if so to speak.
Yes, some kind of reduction. Otherwise, when you see such kind of desolate theft, who do you blame? Because you can't take these billions without a chain, without the treasury.
And it's too obvious. I mean, those are huge
sums of money. But I wish they knew how far we would have gone if some of these things were implemented. I urge those who are doing this, just take a little. You don't need a billion. You just need 100 million, 200, and then you invest it and you let it grow. Then it is enough.
But the president has been very emphatic in he's saying the days of corruption are over. He even has said that he has no friend when it comes to the war on corruption.
Well, all presidents have talked like that. All of them. From the late Jomo Kenyatta, you come to President Moi, you come to Mwai Kibaki, you now come to President. All of them talk like that. It's a good speech.
Yes.
But he will go on record as having taken fairly more tangible steps towards dealing with this problem than the other presidents. But that talk should have the people who are within his range, like the CSs, mere suspicion should have sacked them.
Yeah.
They didn't. He has not.
But just perhaps to strike the fear of God, so to speak, in people's hearts. Now, those who are in positions that might tempt them to engage in this sort of
It's only cowards who fear, or those who lack opportunity.
Yes.
You know, even those who talk about corruption, they are those who, majority of them, just lack opportunity. If they got opportunity, some of these people talk nicely. They'll start, their knees will start going weak. When you are told, okay, we'll give you 500 million on this, you're like, You look at how your life will change. and you start wondering, what if I'm caught? I'll pay people.
Yeah.
So there are those who lack opportunity, and then there are also those who
and they're just not in a position to access
but if they accessed, I'm sure.
Now, but something has to be said for the efforts being put in by the DPP and the DCI. In this particular case, the investigation has stretched all the way to Dubai and Somalia. In the last one, the Kimwere and Aurora Dam saga, we had them going to Italy, if I'm not wrong. Now, this is also showing a change of tact, even though corruption does take different forms. It's sort of morphs into different forms. It seems like they are trying pretty much harder.
I think now the DPP and the DCI seems to have had what we keep on saying, getting sufficient evidence.
Evidence, yes.
You avoid playing to the gallery and arresting people early in the morning and doing drama about it, to simply doing proper investigations, arresting just a few people, and you arraign them in court, and you have sufficient evidence. They seem now to be in that regard, and that's why they have now to go all over the world to try to find evidence. Before, they would wake up in the morning and they tell you today I've approved arrest, so when you reach court, there is nothing.
No evidence.
So I think as we go along, their actions have scared the faint-hearted. The faint-hearted are now very afraid. Very, very, very afraid. And I used to tell people when this thing started, you know, as a legal practitioner, you would tender for jobs. And I used to tell people, I'm not going to tender for any job. I don't want these government jobs that you tender for. And they were like, hey. Now, most of my colleagues say, even me, I don't know. Because any time there's a fault, the first point of stop is the law firm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's why they now say, oh, lawyers, the privilege covering client advocates should be removed. So a very crazy proposal by Parliament that whatever we discuss between you, the police can come and say, please tell me, what did she say? How much did she leave you? What, all the secrets. For now, even parliamentarians who want to pass that legislation, please know this, you will be the first victims. Because any communication between you and your lawyer must remain privileged.
Yes, absolutely, which makes a lot of sense. And I think it's unheard of. Even internationally, there's no
It waters away. If it is not there, then there's no professional client relationship.
Yes.
Because you come and tell me something. You come and tell me, or I come as a client comes and says, yes, I killed so-and-so, but it was for this reason. I need to be defended. The police will come and say, tell us what he told you. You bring money and say, this money, keep it for me. I want to buy a property. Then when the police come and tell them, yes, she brought this. Those parliamentarians who are supporting this, please know
they will be first.
Yourselves the first victims.
Absolutely. And on that note, we do take a short break. When we come back, we have The Way It Is, where we talk about the census and other trending current topics.